Hey folks, it's Kevin. Are real estate agents exposing their buyers to too much liability right now? As some of you may know, in the San Diego housing market, we are seeing a lot of bidding wars on listings. Those are homes for sale. Why is that? Well, a big component is because there is limited inventory. We've talked about that a lot on my channel, where there are just few people willing to sell their home. In addition to a lot of buyers that are looking for homes to buy. And the motivation for them is interest rates are really low right now, and they're able to borrow money close to free. And so everybody wants to go out and purchase a home. Well, what that's caused is a lot of multiple offer situations. And the challenge with multiple offer situations is you oftentimes have to look at creative ways to get your offers accepted. If you're the highest price, that's great and fine, but that doesn't guarantee that you're going to get the home. And the reason that is because there are other terms associated to purchasing a home and what you can include in your offer. So what agents have done is they've looked at removing contingencies or reducing contingency timelines. And my question to you all in this video is, by doing that, are you putting your buyers at risk? Are you putting them in a position where they can potentially lose their earnest money deposit? That is the biggest and most important thing as a real estate agent, is to protect my buyers and to make sure that they have confidence and can move forward with peace of mind. Because if you're rolling the dice on a property appraising for the price that you have submitted an offer on, then you have to understand the repercussions that come with you being wrong. Secondly, if you decide that you're gonna waive your right to either get a home warranty or to ask for a request for repair during the inspection process, then you also have to make sure up front that your buyers know that prior to even seeing the plumbing or the foundation, potentially the roof or the electrical, that they can find problems later, even if the home is completely upgraded. Now, granted, when a home is flipped, most of those items are taken care of, and very rarely will a flipper want to buy a home that has foundation issues. But nonetheless, these are things that should be looked at. And if you're wrong in any capacity, you could be opening up your buyers to a lot of liability. So let's go ahead and talk about what contingencies are in place, so that way we can see if we are overexposed or if we're treading appropriately. The first contingency that should be considered in all purchase transactions is going to be the inspection contingency. The inspection contingency is in place so that way a buyer can conduct their due diligence or their investigations as far as the condition of the home. Now, during this investigation process, typically you're going to hire a home inspector, and these costs can range anywhere from $200 to $600, just depending on how large the home is, where it's located, and what company you hire based on their experience. Now, once they get done, they're going to send you, the buyer, and your agent about a 100-page report, and it's going to list everything right, wrong, and indifferent about the house. But it's important because you can go back, look at that information, and decide if any of that information or any of those items affects functionality or safety. You can then request that the sellers repair, replace, or give you a credit to fix them. Now, if you have an inspection contingency in place, then you can always ask for those repairs should you find anything affecting functionality or safety. However, what we have seen is buyers agents and home buyers get creative and get more aggressive in their offer submission. And what they've done is they've removed that inspection contingency. And I know what you're thinking. You're probably like, oh my gosh, people are buying homes without actually looking at what's right or wrong with them. That's not what I'm saying. You can still conduct an inspection and you can still purchase an inspection report. It's just you won't be able to negotiate any repairs that might show up. And trust me, that can be very overwhelming, especially if you find out that the home has mold or foundation issues or needs their electrical upgraded, because that can be a very hefty cost. But at the end of the day, it's the buyer's decision. And maybe that buyer has friends or family members or other relationships where they can count on those people to make any repairs necessary, and all they're looking to do is get the home. See, I can play devil's advocate, but here's something that you should consider. At the end of the day, you're going to be on the hook for those repairs. And if you decide to cancel for inspection reasons, then you're not going to get that earnest money deposit back. That earnest money deposit is typically 1% of the purchase price. So if you're buying a $500,000 home, that's $5,000 that you can kiss goodbye. So you have to make peace with the fact that you're going to have to accept whatever items come up on that inspection report. And have that conversation early on with your agent and just know, hey, we're taking a gamble here. And I hope that it comes out clean, because at that point, I can move forward. The second contingency that we're going to talk about is the appraisal contingency. And this is in place to protect the buyer and guarantee that the amount agreed upon in purchase price can in fact be met, and that an appraiser will go out and determine that the home is actually worth that amount. What I mean by that is, let's say that a buyer visits a home that is for sale at $500,000. After visiting that home, they love it and they don't want to miss out on it. So they suggest to their agent that they should submit an offer at $550,000, $50,000 over what the home is listed at. The sellers agree and they have a mutually agreed upon contract. They now go into the escrow process, and within that first week are going to have to order an appraisal. Well, an appraisal is conducted by the financial institution, aka the bank, who is lending money to that buyer or pre-approving them for a home loan. The appraiser is a non-interest third party who goes to the property, looks at their criteria that they follow that we've talked about in the past on this channel, and I'll go ahead and add a link up here so that way you guys can check that video out if you want. And they're going to do their inspection, and they're going to determine whether or not that home is actually worth $50,000 over what it was listed at. Well, let's say for the sake of this video that that home that was listed at $500,000 but was offered at $550,000, the appraiser determines that it's worth $540,000, which would be $10,000 less than the agreed upon purchase price. At that point, the bank is going to notify the buyer, and the buyer is going to have to make a decision. Are they willing to pay the additional $10,000? Because the bank is only going to finance the amount that the appraiser determined it was worth. So, what happens when you don't have an appraisal contingency? Well, you guessed it. The buyers are on the hook. If you do have an appraisal contingency in place, then you can negotiate for the sellers to come down to the appraised value. However, due to demand and due to how buyers are submitting offers today, they're removing their appraisal contingency, basically guaranteeing that they're going to pay the amount that is on that offer. Again, it's the buyer's decision. If they feel like based on the homes that have sold in the last 6 months, they can justify that sales price, and they're willing to roll the dice that the appraiser is going to guarantee that price of $550,000, then sure, I can see that. But remember, there's always two sides to a coin. And maybe for whatever reason, the appraiser, one person, determined that that home isn't worth that price. Maybe they had a bad day. Maybe they grew up in that neighborhood and they know something that you don't. Or maybe for whatever reason, they thought that that home wasn't worth what you agreed upon buying it at. And now, not only do you have to pay your down payment, not only do you have to pay your closing costs, but you're also going to have to pay an additional $10,000. Last but not least, loan contingency. This is in place to protect the buyer and ensure that they are able to secure financing with their bank or financial institution. They have to complete a checklist of items that are asked for by an underwriter of that financial institution, such as gathering pay stubs, bank statements, W-2s, taxes, yada, 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 yada. And if they're able to get all of those things and their credit is in order and their debt to income is in order, then they will get what's called an initial underwriting approval. Typically, this happens within the first 7 days of being in the escrow process. And you have 21 days to let the sellers know whether you're moving forward or backing out. I say that because on a standard California residential purchase agreement, you have a 21-day loan contingency, which just basically states that on the 21st day, you have to have that initial underwriting approval and feel confident in your ability to close that loan. Your loan officer can help you with advice on whether or not you're there once you're on the 21st day. But nonetheless, you want to know that you have an initial underwriting approval, your credit hasn't changed, you haven't overdrafted any accounts, you haven't run up any credit cards that could be subject to your credit score changing or your debt to income ratio. If you do get to a point where you feel confident in moving forward, you then can remove that loan contingency, let the sellers know that you're moving forward, and then from that point on, all you have to do is give the bank updated documentation and you should get the keys to your home on the 30th day of escrow. On average, can be longer, can be shorter, but here's the catch. Some people are removing their loan contingency. So this means that if the buyer decides to back out at any point in the transaction and it has to do with their financing, they lose out on their deposit. So that is something that's very common for somebody who's going to be paying cash. They don't have a loan contingency because they're not subject to bank approval. They have all the money to pay for that home. But for somebody who's going to be securing financing, that's very risky, especially in today's world where you don't know if your hours are going to be reduced. You don't know if we're going to get a second wave. You don't know if you're going to lose your job altogether or be furloughed. It's very dangerous. However, we are seeing that happening because, again, buyer's agents are getting creative and buyers are trying to find a solution to get their offers accepted. Now, just understand that with removing any of these contingencies that we talked about, please speak to your real estate agent. If they're not sure what they're doing, maybe talk to their broker or their team leader or someone who can help you and give you better information. Just be careful. I'm not advising to do any of these things. I'm not advising against any of these things. I think it's a case-by-case scenario. You know your financial situation better than anyone else, and I recommend that you get a good agent who's going to advise you the right way. Okay. Now that we've talked about protections and contingencies, as well as how buyer's agents are getting creative to ultimately get their buyers' offers accepted, let's talk about how that's affecting the market. As you may have heard, and I'll add it to the screen, San Diego was recently surveyed as the #1 city when it comes to bidding wars. AKA, sellers in San Diego are getting more offers than any city across the United States, which is great for sellers. But what is that actually doing to home prices, and is this a bubble? Okay, for us to understand if this is a bubble, we must first understand what has caused this huge buyer demand and what has caused these bidding wars. So as I mentioned earlier, interest rates are low, not very many homes for sale. We got that. But what else is causing it? Well, I don't think it's a surprise that many people don't want to sell their home right now for many reasons. Yes, it is raining outside. No, just kidding. That's not the reason why. It's because they don't want people to walk into their home. It is just not the best time to have people walking through your house. And I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. In fact, I do think that this is something that we're going to see for at least 18 more months. That's my prediction. Don't hold me to it. That's just what I think. I think that during the course of that time, we're gonna be able to get vaccinations out to a lot more people. But at the end of the day, there is a big portion of people that are choosing not to take the vaccination. And I think that that is going to cause sellers to remain wary about bringing people into their home. Another thing, buyers are writing offers on multiple homes at the same time. What does that mean? Well, let's say there are 100 homes for sale in San Diego, and there are 200 people who are looking to buy a home. On average, there should be 2 offers per home. 200 buyers, 100 homes, 2 offers per home. However, if those buyers are writing offers on multiple homes, then that means that there are probably more than just 2 offers on each home for sale, because that same buyer can write 100 offers on every home for sale, therefore inflating the amount of offers that are actually presented to the seller. Now, it doesn't take away from the validity of those offers. However, if a buyer writes an offer on 100 homes, what happens if 2 out of those 100 sellers accepts their offer? That buyer can't purchase both of those homes, so they're going to have to make a decision on which home they want to purchase. And this is an issue because buyers are overinflating their price just to get their offer accepted without actually having the intention of moving forward with that home because they like the other one better that was accepted first. And when it happens time after time after time, it increases home prices at a substantial rate. And with wages not being able to keep up with the prices of homes, it reduces affordability in San Diego. And we're already one of the more expensive markets in the United States. So it presents the question, when will this stop and where is the future of our market headed? I hope that you can contribute by leaving a comment down below. If you have a friend or a family member who has an opinion on this, or you feel like could benefit from this video, please send it, please share it with them. And lastly, please subscribe to my channel. You'd be doing me a great favor in helping me grow. I'll see you in the next one.